there are non-profits like you, there are people like you who have been working so tirelessly and for the cause, for like all the gender biases and all the discrimination that women are facing in our society. There are a lot of things that are going on, and in fact with the advent of globalization, now people are also becoming more and more aware about the rights of women, and society is getting more and more aware comparatively as compared to the earlier times. But when we talk about the issues that we are dealing with, the bottom line remains the same. The discrimination still remains the same. Gender based violences, be it of any kind, gender based discrimination, it again remains the same. The scenario remains the same. There has been no change. So I just want to understand from you, Nilda, that what according to you is the root of all these social evils that we are dealing with in terms of gender-based violences and gender-based discrimination.
First, thank you for interviewing me, and thank you for addressing this important topic and helping raise awareness about gender violence, especially on the international celebration days or weeks or months for that matter, that it's important. This is really important in terms of changing the world and having a better view of the world. And this work is important, I think, to, for our own children. It's important for our nieces and nephews. It's important for our grandchildren. It's important for our community, because without addressing gender violence, we will continue to have problems in our world. It will be a world that will continue to be unjust. It will be a world that will have a lack of respect for people, for including diversity, right? Because if we can't handle the gender diversity, I don't believe that we can handle the racial diversity. And so it's really important that we really work hard at providing a different future than one that we have all grown up with. And I want to say, though, that I think that the world has changed, that we have, with the domestic violence movement, we have come a long way, but we just have a long way to go still. And I think that's what we have to remember, that there's still a lot of work has been done by a lot of people who had greater foresight and had to deal with issues long ago, but there's still a lot of work that still needs to be done.
So there is a very thin line between gender differences and gender discrimination, but it's a very serious topic to discuss upon. So I would like to understand your take on this. Like, when do we convert these gender differences into gender discrimination?
So first, I think it's important to, I don't believe it's realistic to think that we are all identical, right? And I personally hate it when there are discussions and people say, well, we're more alike, we're all the same. For me, that just never works, because I think that there are differences between communities, and there definitely are differences with genders. I grew up with 3 brothers and 2 sisters. So, although there was definitely similarity between us, or some of us, there was also definite differences. And I have a boy and a girl that I've raised, and I've been a teacher. So there definitely are, some natural gender differences, or tend to be some natural gender differences. And at the same time, I know you can't help but be aware that there's gender discrimination. So even in when I think of my children, one of the things that we did, my husband and I did, we committed to choosing names that we felt that they wouldn't be discriminated against, that it could go with either boy or girl. And they have, and ironically, I think the boy's name has been used a little bit more for girls, and the girl's name has been used a little bit, our daughter's name has been used a little bit more for boys, but we felt that they could go with either name, and we felt that there was strength in that, right? Because we didn't want them to be discriminated. We wanted them, if they wanted to be president of the United States or president of a company, that there wasn't a that they wouldn't face that as much as if they had a name that really personified more of a female or more of a male a male image. So I think those gender differences lead to gender discrimination, especially for those that are not as honest and are more under the influence of the gender differences, right? Who who may recognize the differences but don't take it to the opposite extreme. I mean, I think that we should live in a world of gender differences and be supportive of those differences, right? Instead of live in a world and recognize some of those differences and favor some of those differences to accomplish different things. That's where the discrimination comes in. And especially what's really hard and where it connects with my sister's housework is when people feel that, like, oh, one part of the population is stronger than the other, or one part of the population needs to control the other half of the relationship, right? That's when there are problems, right? Especially when that control is unhealthy, when that control doesn't allow people to grow and to be the best that they can be.
How has my sister's house been working for this particular cause, and in fact your story as well? Like, how did you, what motivated you basically to work for these causes, for this particular cause, and currently what my sister is doing and for the cause and for the women?
So that's question is several parts. I'm going to be talking for a little bit while. So for those who aren't familiar with my sister's house, we are a nonprofit that has helped victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. We're based in Sacramento, California, and this organization has done this work for 20 years now. We're not the biggest organization. We're not the smallest organization. For those of you that are unfamiliar with California in the US, we are one of the more diverse states, and we have a lot of Asian Pacific Islanders that live in our state. In fact, I think we have the most numerically wise, not necessarily percentage wise, in our state. So in our state, Asian Pacific Islanders make up about 15% of the population. And those state demographics kind of reflect Sacramento, where we're from, which is also the state capital. We're in the northern part of the state. And so I grew up in here. I grew up in Sacramento. Well, I grew up near Sacramento. I actually am the first one in my family born in the States. And one of the reasons I do this work is that I remember living with my Lola, my grandma, and I remember her talking about what a good wife is, right? Trying to give me counsel as Lolas, as grandmas do, right? And I was the first one in the family born in the state, which meant we were an immigrant family, right? And so we lived together. We were lucky to have our grandmother live with us. And so spent a lot of time with her. End of story though, she told me that to be a good wife meant I had to accept whatever my husband did to me. If he hit me, I had to accept that. If he cheated on me, I had to turn the other cheek. if he told me, if he deprived me of any money, then that was just the deal. That's what it meant to be a good wife. If he forced himself on me, I had to accept that. On and on, that was my role of what a good wife was supposed to be. And I think that's my grandmother was trying to train me. And that was what she unfortunately had lived with in her time. But I knew even as a young kid, I don't know how or why, but I knew as a young kid, and I remember telling my grandma, Lola, that was for you, but that's not for me. That wasn't going to be my case. And I grew up in a very traditional family, though, where, I was expected to do the dishes and my brothers got to play football. My brothers got to have fun. I was expected to serve my brothers. And my brothers are good men, so don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to lie, I didn't like that double standard of what it meant to be as a young woman, right? But I was lucky, I don't come to this work as a victim of domestic violence. I have beautiful men around me, wonderful, strong men around me who give a great example of what a man is. At the same time, just a few years ago before COVID hit, I remember accepting an award at a Filipino community event here in Sacramento. And I remember a young scholarship winner going up to the stage and saying, that talking about her Lola living with her, and her Lola said similar things that my Lola said. And I thought, oh my God, things have not changed. I could be this scholarship winner's grandma, unfortunately, right? And things have not changed. And so this is why this work is important. And our work at my sister's house is about prevention of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. It's about prevention of gender violence, right? It's not only about prevention, it's also about intervention too, right? Sometimes the best prevention is intervention, right? It may not be immediate prevention, but it is prevention for the future generations, right? So if we're able to help a young woman who has a child, and we're able to help that young woman so that she doesn't have to live with an abusive partner, then that means that young child will be able to grow in a safe home and not witness acts of abuse, right? So that's part of our work that we do here at my sister's house. It's both prevention and intervention. We help survivors of all ethnicities, but we do have a Pan-Asian focus and emphasis, right? And how we do the work specifically is in 4 program areas. It includes outreach and education for the prevention purposes. So doing trainings so that people understand what domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking is, raising discussion of what gender violence is, what is okay, what is not okay in relationships, right? And also letting people know about what's the next step of how to contact us, right? So outreach and education is really important. And it's important that people know that we have a 24/7 multilingual helpline that they can call us for. Anytime, call for support. And I want to say, because I know this is going all over the world, people can call us, and people do call us from outside of the Sacramento area, right? And sometimes people call us because they have their sister or their niece or cousin happens to be nearby here, and they want to make sure that the person gets help. And sometimes they call us because they've just heard of this and they want some assistance, right? So we have a 24/7 helpline. That's our second core area of our service. Our third core area of service is shelter and housing. It's usually what people want the most. Usually are the victims that help are usually women, not all women, but largely women. And so usually they're looking for shelter. It's because it's the shelter so that they can get out of their bad relationship, right? My sister's house operates a 6-bed emergency shelter. We operate 2 6-bed transitional shelters, and we're opening up a culture responsive shelter for Muslim women. And then lastly, we have our what we call our Women to Work program. And for us, that's the part of our services that deals with what happens after somebody leaves an abusive situation, whether they're staying with another sister, whether they're staying with my sister's house, or if they happen to have enough money to live on their own. What happens after they've left that abusive partner? And usually they need counseling, they need legal services, many times they need job training and job support. So my sister's house offers job training and support, including we've opened up 2 social enterprises, a cafe. We're about to open up a gift store retail store, again, to provide job training for some of our survivors. So we're a good size. We're not helping everybody because we don't have enough money to help everybody, but hopefully we make an impact. That's what we strive for, is how can we make a deep impact and how can we help change people's lives? So one of the stories that I wanted to share with you tonight is we started my sister's cafe, and again, to help provide some job training support for our survivors. And one of our clients passed her food server management exam. So in California, maybe not everywhere, but in California, you have to pass a test to just work in a restaurant. You can't just come to the restaurant. If you're going to be a legal employee, the health department requires you to pass just a basic test, just to work there, right? And then if you want to be a manager at that place, you have to pass, or any place, at another restaurant, food establishment place, you have to pass a higher level exam, right? To be able to legally, properly be working in a restaurant. And in California, in Sacramento, management salaries are like $50, almost $60,000 now, which is a decent, more than decent living, for our area, right? Now, imagine that we had a survivor who was never allowed to work because her husband wanted to control her. Imagine that this survivor, English was not her first language. Now imagine that we've not only helped her pass her food service certification test, not only given her experiences, we now have helped her pass the management test so that she can work in the restaurant of her choice and make a decent living, be able to pay for her housing, be able to, kids are expensive, so maybe not support her kids with everything, but, support her kids, a bit, right? That's the change that we were able to do recently with someone that we're just thrilled to pieces over, that our work has been able to make that difference. And, it's not just, I have to say, it's not just our staff work, it's the community that has to support my sister's house, or it doesn't happen. We can have great staff, but if we don't have community supporting us, if we don't have groups like you helping us tell our story, we won't get the support that we so desperately need to make sure we keep our doors open and can continue to do this work.
Nothing can be done alone and just with the staff, because it is a non-profit organization that is running non-profitably for all the people who are suffering from a particular issue. So it becomes a big responsibility of the society as well, and for the people all around us as well, to come up and support the initiative. So here comes the role of volunteers, I would particularly like to mention. And like, I have talked with a lot of nonprofits during our recent campaigns, be it World Mental Health Day, be it International Literacy Day, or even Pride Month, or any such campaign. And all of them have said that when we talk about the most important and most critical stakeholder in a non-profit organization, it's not the beneficiaries, it's the volunteers. Because the people with the right intent at their heart, when they come together, that makes the entire difference in the society, and like it takes up the non-profits efforts to next level. And volunteers are something that are creating the biggest change in the society. So I would like to understand from you as well, like what are the different ways that a volunteer, that a normal person, let's say like me, can come up and support my sister's house. Like I am sitting in India, but I am really close to this cause, and I really want to support this particular cause and your non-profit. So what are the different ways that I can connect and I can be of help for all the beneficiaries that you're serving and for your non-profit as well?
And there are so many ways that people can help near and afar from my sister's house. So let me just name a few. So the first thing that I want to say is that I think that I always tell people, like, start in your own backyard, right? Of having great relationships with those around you, right? Because if you're not being a good partner to someone, then you're just making our work more difficult, right? So that's the first thing, is to be the best partner that you can be, and be a healthy partner, right? The second thing that I want to say is then to make that circle a little bit wider, right? Of, are your family members, and again, they're probably going to be the female members that we're pointing to, not necessarily all the time, but most of them, your closest females circle, whether they be biological or just, friends, are they in healthy relationships, right? Making sure that you have those discussions with them as to what is a healthy relationship, what is a positive relationship, what is an abusive relationship, right? Making sure that they know that they have the right to say no to pain, right? That they have the right to say no to trauma, that they have the right to say no to being abused, right? And that they should, for their own health and well-being, say no, right? And to stand up, however scared, however fearful that they may be. Make sure that you believe. I mean, one of the best things that you could do is believe those around you that may be coming to you needing help. In acting for them, I think is really acting with them and for them is really important, right? And so that may mean taking that young niece of yours who might be in a bad relationship, or taking that neighbor who might be, or coworker that might be in a bad relationship, and letting them know about other domestic violence organizations, or my sister's house if you want, that can care about them, that wants to support them, right? And making sure, helping them with their safety planning so that they can be safe, and that their children can be safe if there are children, right? So that would be the second area of acting and supporting those that may be in need. I think that the third way that people can make a difference is to make sure that they're to services as the support behind the services, right? And that can be everything from helping be a volunteer for another domestic violence organization or my sister's house, right? Whether it be one of our events or serving as a board member. It may mean donating to the organization. It may be at the very least joining our emails so you can hear about all the different things that we do, and letting other folks know about them, right? Financial support is always helpful, and it might be not direct financial support, maybe it's in-kind support of, for instance, today, one of our wonderful volunteers said, I want to buy beds for your Muslim shelter, so I want them to have new beds. So she didn't give us cash out front, but she ordered the beds for us, and that was a big help. The other weekend I had both my son and another wonderful male friend gave us muscle power to move things, right? That we needed things moved from our storage so that we could open up our gift store retail store, right? And then I had my husband and another male friend helping cut the carpet tile. So, and we have volunteers helping today in our office with our newsletter that we want to send out to 6,000 people. In a few weeks, we have our Run for a Safe Haven, and we'll have people volunteering with donating food to people volunteering to serving food to people running and walking in the run. And for me, that makes it, we always invite our clients to participate in the run free of charge. And they always, every year they say like, oh my God, I didn't know that people care about domestic violence, that they didn't know that people care about themselves, right? That they identify themselves with it. And so I think like, how important that is for people to see that. And I also have to say that every year I always hear a story of someone who was participated in our run and then later acknowledged the fact that she was being a victim of abuse, and wasn't able to say something about it beforehand until she realized that it's okay, that, that there are so many people. And the stats are like 1 out of 4 people are affected by domestic violence. And some reports are 1 out of 3, right? And if you look at the studies on Asian Pacific Islanders, including Americans and non-Americans, the stats are usually higher in terms of those percentages, right? So participating in events, talking about the issue of domestic violence, gender violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, those are all helpful ways to make a difference. There are so many ways that people can care. We have people helping answer our crisis lines who go through 40 hours of training so that we can both feel comfortable in terms of their helping folks. And even then, that's probably not enough. But and then, of course, there's the ultimate for some folks like myself of, appreciate those that are willing to work in a nonprofit, as you had mentioned. There's a lesser pay, unfortunately, but I always tell people bigger benefits, right? Definitely more challenges. And again, but you wake up every day knowing that you're making a difference in helping someone and creating the future that you believe is important. So, so many ways. If somebody says they can't do anything in terms of this, like, no, there's many ways that people can do things. And I have friends who tell me like, Nilda, I can't work for a nonprofit, but I can support a nonprofit, and that's what they do. And can't tell you how important that is. It's important to have good people who are going to work for nonprofits, and it's important to have good people who are going to be supporting us that are working in the nonprofits.
Would you like to mention anything about your work, about your nonprofit, about yourself, or anything for that matter?
I would hope that you could put up our website and our crisis line in case people wish to call. And our website is my-sisters-house.org. If you don't do it right, you're going to end up, there's different My Sisters houses in the nation. So make sure you're looking at the one that is for Asian Pacific Islanders and based in Sacramento, California. Okay. And I'm so grateful to you for giving us this platform and hoping that that everyone choose this as a way of being safe and supporting the work of other organizations, if not My Sisters House, that are helping end gender violence. And appreciate, especially, I think it's the men's strength and men's leadership and stepping aside, stepping forward to make sure that other men follow and are positive role models, and also stepping aside to walk with your sisters. So thank you.